Okay, everybody, here is chapter one. This is one of the shortest chapters we're going to cover. So hopefully this will be a pretty short video. So you should see on your screen the PowerPoint chapter one, speaking in public. This is the same chapter PowerPoint that you have access to under the PowerPoint section on Wolfden in coursework. Remember, it's not in resources because I found that people were getting confused about where they were. And I also couldn't set due dates for when I recommend that you have them read by or gone over. So they're in coursework. They have a due date, but that just means you need to look over them by that time. You can still have access to them once the due date passes. You just go in there, you still click on it, you'll still be able to look at it. It's just that I think it goes to gray instead of a dark black. But if you click on it, you should still be able to access it. Okay, so let's go over these. So I'm not going to play these videos because they don't do well. Sometimes when I'm sharing my screen, they won't play at all. And sometimes it'll be distorted or the microphone doesn't pick up the sound. So we're just not going to mess with it, but you can watch those on your own if they work on your computer. And if they don't work on your computer, big deal. You're still going to be able to get the content. So on your exam, and your exam is multiple choice or true or false. We're going to talk more about that as the exam gets closer. It's obviously the end of the curriculum, but you're going to be able to use your notes, use your book, use your buddy, use your friend. Just it's open everything. It's just not open Professor Butler, but it's open these videos. It's just anything you want to use. So public speaking and conversation, there is a question on your exam that has to do with this concept. So if you're taking notes and you're going to submit them for extra credit, it's a good idea for you to take them anyway, because your notes will serve as your study guide and your test companion when you take the exam on Wolfden online later in the term. So how are public speaking, that's what that PS stands for, and conversations similar? So here are some of the similarities. You've got logically organized thoughts, ideally. Your messages, again, ideally should be tailored to your audience, because we've all felt the difference between being talked at and being talked to, or even better, being talked with. And we don't want our audience to feel like they're being talked at. And so how do we combat that tendency for people to feel that way when they're seated and listening to us up at the front of the room, usually? Well, we try to meet them where they are. We try to anticipate their perspective as best we can, and we try to tailor our message to that audience. And then we try to tell stories for maximum impact, or why tell them, right? Your story should have a purpose and should relate. You'll get to learn. I'm a great proponent of storytelling. I love a good story, but they end up being tangents and just tangents if you don't bring it back to the purpose and the link to give it context in an overarching topic, right? So it should always feed back into that topic and adapt to feedback. Now, sometimes feedback is very explicit, it's very direct, it's very clear, it's very, I can't hear you, speak up, or you're too loud, or can you slow down, or I can't see you, or you're moving so much I'm distracted. Sometimes we get that direct feedback. That's the kind of feedback you'll get from your peer partners in the class who respond to you, or from the professor on the rubric that I give back to you. But sometimes feedback is much more subtle. We've all had tendencies to, or we've all noticed people who have been listening to us, except they're not listening to us. Maybe they stop listening to us, their eyes gloss over, and we can tell they've checked out. I know that happens to me as a teacher. So I adapt to that subtle feedback, and I try to engage them more, and I try to do something goofy maybe to get them to pay attention, or just become a little bit more lively, or move on because we've beaten a topic too much, or maybe they look confused by the looks on their faces, and I try to reframe something so that maybe they'll pick it up that way. So that's kind of adapting more subtle feedback. That's going to be trickier in the format that we are doing this class in. So we just kind of want to imagine a real audience, because it's real human beings. It's easy to forget that when we're online, but real human beings are taking their real time to watch your real speech. So let's anticipate what that experience will be like for them. As I'm teaching this class on this video, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Professor Butler, move on, they get it, right? Or maybe I didn't phrase that the way I wanted to. Let's double back, go back and get it, try again, right? Those are the things I'm picturing your faces as you're watching this. Are you fast forwarding? Are you falling asleep? Are you nodding along? So I'm picturing real people, and that helps me be a real person with a goal in mind. I'm trying to get you to pick up what I'm putting down, to take away what I want you to take away, the same way you will be doing when you are delivering your speeches. So what are the differences? There's also a question about this on your exam. So what are the differences? Well, public speaking is more highly structured, right? We have to put it in a package that will let us have the best chance of being understood, being heard, and being persuasive when we get into that area of the curriculum. It's also, it requires more formal. Now, does that mean, when it says formal language, does that mean that I want you to act like an aristocrat? You know, does it mean that I need you to act like you're not a real person because you're so elevated that you're playing at something that you're not? No, I want you to be you on your best day. I used to work a long time ago in a bridal shop. And one of the things, this was before filters were on everybody's phones. This was before Instagram and before, all of this. And so people didn't Photoshop their own photos usually. And so but even though they were Photoshopped or airbrushed or whatever by the photographer afterwards, there was a lot more to do with makeup. Those processes were a lot different than they are today. And so what we used to tell brides was, you should look like yourself on your best day. The brides who would do their makeup so that they didn't even look like themselves anymore, they look so different than they normally do, that the groom was like, what? So we would advise them to be themselves on their best day, like them but polished, them but take it up a notch, sort of like you but on your best behavior kind of concept. And that's what I think about a lot when I think about evaluating my students. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to be you. I'm not trying to get you to be some cookie cutter public speaker. My goal is not to even turn you into some arbitrary idea of what the best speaker is. I'm not doing that. I'm not even thinking about doing that. My goal is to turn you into the most confident speaker that I can help you become, and then also to be able to get you to reach the people you're trying to reach and to make the biggest change that you can by reaching those people, if that's something that you want to do, right? If you want to change your mind because there's a topic that's important to you, or you want to influence people in that way, I want you to be able to do it. I want you to know how to do it responsibly and effectively. And so public speaking also requires a different method of delivery. We're not going off the dome. I don't know if people still say that, but we're not going off the top of our heads. We're not winging it. We have to be purposeful and thoughtful about what our goals are, or we're not going to achieve them, especially in this day and age where, frankly, people's attention spans are not what they could be, right? And so I'm competing right now. I'm competing right now with that phone in your hand, with that TV on, with that app that you want to check. I'm competing for your attention right now. We're always competing for attention. It's just a very overstimulating world that we live in. And so if we can make our method of delivery such that it's more likely to grab and keep that attention, we're going to have more success achieving the goals that we want to achieve. Okay, moving on. What is stage fright? Well, most of us have heard this term. It's anxiety over the prospect or the idea of speaking in front of an audience. And guess what? Almost everybody has that same kind of feeling. It just has to do with self-talk. How do we use that feeling? How do we even process that feeling? What do we label that feeling as? Because here's the thing. I also am a theater teacher, and I do plays myself. I'm an actor, director. I've worked with a lot of actors in my time and improvisers and things like that. And here's what I've learned. And also, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but essentially, trust me when I tell you that physiologically, neurologically, our brains when we're excited versus our brains when we're terrified, they're sending pretty much the same signals. They're telling us pretty much the same things. Our tummies feel the same. Our palms are sweating the same. Our hearts are beating the same. Our brains and our bodies don't know the difference between fear and excitement. That's why we love roller coasters and horror movies in part, right? So what does this have to do with public speaking? Well, it's that self-talk. Do you have to, or do you get to? right? The singer who is about to walk out on stage and is so excited to sing in front of a full house of people, that person is having that same energy charge as the person who is terrified and wants to run back to their car and doesn't know how they're going to get out there. That fear, that terror, that excitement, and that feeling of being pumped that I have to versus the I get to, they're not that different, but how we process them can be. And so, how do we channel stage fright into something that we can use? Just not necessarily fake it till you make it, but don't reinforce it as fear. Recognize it, hold it, understand it, feel it, check it, go, yeah, I feel really nervous. But that's okay because I'm prepared. I know what I'm doing. If you are prone to stage fright and you haven't prepared, you're really choosing to set yourself up for way more nervousness than you need to have. If you're someone who's prone to nervousness and you prepare, that nervousness, if you don't lean into it too much, I'm not saying deny it, but if you don't lean into it too much and reinforce it by saying things like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous, the more you say that, the more you stay that, right? I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous. Just, oh, I'm kind of nervous. My heart's beating fast. Well, you know what? Maybe I'm also excited. Your brain, your body, they don't know the difference. So channel that into productive energy, because the actors or the singers who don't care before they go out there, that's when everybody always tells you in that area or that discipline, that's when you give it up, right? When you're not excited, when you don't feel anything, then you give it up. When you're not afraid or you're not excited, why are you doing it, right? So, because those feelings, those sensations are not altogether different, use that fear, use that nervousness, and turn it into fuel, turn it into energy, turn it from I have to I get to, and try to find a way to get something out of it, right? My sort of life's philosophy is if you've got to be trapped in an elevator, there's nothing you can do about it. You have to take this class to graduate, right? I've got a truly captive audience on my hands as you're watching this video. So if you're trapped in the elevator, there's nothing you can do about it. You might as well throw a party. You might as well find a way to have a good time. You got to give these speeches to graduate. You got to take this class. So find a way not to be terrified of it. And guess what? Everybody watching it, they're feeling the same things you're feeling. I felt the same things you're feeling. I'm not better than you are. I am just more experienced than you are. I'm older than you are. And with practice comes more comfort, right? The more prepared we are, the more experience we have, the less terrified we're going to be. So I've been where you are. Your classmates who are listening to you, they've been where you are, right? So it's okay. It's okay. And because this is online, if you completely have a train wreck of a speech, we're never going to know because you can start that bad boy over and record it anew and we'll never know. Okay. So, how do we reduce speech anxiety? This is also on your exam. Well, like I just said, acquire experience. Anything that we do over and over again is going to feel less foreign to us and is going to feel less scary. So prepare, 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 and think positively. But guess what? The students that I have that run into trouble on speech day usually do so because they don't meet that combination of the last two factors on this slide. They prepare, 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 and then they still think negatively. If you're prepared and you've practiced, you've rehearsed, you know what you're going to say, or roughly, it doesn't have to be word perfect, but you've prepared enough, right? And you're thinking positively, man, it is really likely that you're going to hit a home run here. It is really likely that you're going to do a job that you're happy with, right? Or I have students who prepare, 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 but then they're still thinking negatively, right? They're just getting in their own heads and they're sabotaging themselves. Or what happens sometimes is I have students who do not prepare and God bless them, they're still thinking positively, like, I'm going to wing it. I have charisma, or, it'll be fine. It's not a big deal. And they just don't have the technique to fall back on. They don't have the preparation to fall back on. And they may even have good delivery, but the content, the composition is lacking. And so they don't get as much credit as they could have. Their marks are not as high, their grade is not as high as it could have been. So all that is to say, check out the evaluation sheet. It's handout 00 on Wolfden under the handout section in coursework, not resources, coursework. So check out that handout 00. You're going to see that 50% of your speech is delivery. It's how you say what you say, right? And then the other 50% is the composition. What are you literally saying? Okay. So if you practice both of those things, they're going to work together to elevate you. And also, don't expect it. We're going to talk about this in a second, but don't expect it to be perfect. Expect your best to get better every day. Do your best every day, and your best will get better every day. Okay. All right. Visualize yourself doing it well, right? Close your eyes and picture yourself nailing it. And if you trip up, start over in your brain. Also, don't just visualize it though, because it's public speaking. You don't look out at football practice and see a bunch of football players on the sidelines with their eyes closed, like meditating and imagining the plays. They're running them in their body, right? So many times I'll have a student who will get super tongue tied in a presentation and be genuinely confused because they practiced. But when I asked them how they practiced, how they rehearsed, it was all here, right? So you've got to bridge that gap. You visualize yourself nailing it, but also practice it out loud like you're going to deliver it. Put it in your body, put it in your mouth. Okay. They're your words. So if you're not comfortable with saying them, you're not comfortable with how to pronounce them, that's on you, because it's your job to practice them. What I do is I would typically, and everybody's different. Some people need more time or less time. So I would write out my preparation outline, read my preparation. And you don't know what that is yet, but you're going to soon. But I'd read out my preparation outline maybe 10 times, and then make my note cards and practice with those maybe 5 times, and then revise my note cards to make sure they're really working for me. We're going to talk about all this soon. And then go over those at least 5 times. So by the time that I deliver my speech in front of anybody, it's my brain thinks it's the 21st time because I've done it 20 times on my own. And so that way, my body, my brain, I'm not as scared. I'm not as terrified. I'm thinking this is just another time, but I'm more energized because the audience is there. You're going to perform like you practice. So don't phone in that preparation part of it. Okay. And know that most nervousness is not visible, especially online. We don't know that your heart's beating fast. We don't hear your stammering the way that you think we do. So you don't have to get in your head about it. If you notice it, like, I don't know if you noticed, but just a second ago, I sort of involuntarily swallowed. Maybe I'm nervous. Maybe I'm just, talking a lot. I did another video for you a second ago, but if I stammer, because I'm a human being and I'm the teacher, I'll stammer, I'll swallow weirdly. But if I get in my head about that, then I don't recover, and I become like that second baseman. You tune into the game, and it's the 7th inning, and he's still got butterfingers. He's dropping everything, and then they tell you that the 3rd inning he made a terrible mistake. He's still caught up in his head about the mistake he made in the 3rd inning. He's not really mentally in the 7th inning. Right. So he's continuing to perpetuate those mistakes, and things are snowballing. Right. So big deal. I'm telling you, it's not a big deal if you mess up. If you're prepared and you mess up, notice that you mess up. I'll probably mark something about your mess up. I might even take a point or two away depending on how you messed up. But guess what? It's still not a big deal. It's still not a big deal. You're not going to get a perfect grade on any of your speeches. I've never given a grade of a speech that was 100%. And I don't say that to defeat you, because I've given a lot of A's. But there's always room for improvement. There's always something that you could work on for next time. Right. And so just keep that in mind. I wouldn't give myself 100% on a speech, because my best is always going to get better. That ceiling is always going to rise every time I do something. And again, we talked about not expecting perfection, because that'll just be defeating. We talked about how to control that nervousness so that it's energy, it's fuel, it's not defeating. Visualize yourself giving the presentation, but also rehearse it. You don't need to know the slide. That's not important. Ethnocentrism is a concept that's also on your exam. And it's the idea that we as human beings have a tendency to believe that our group or culture is superior to all other groups or cultures, or even that we are the only group or culture, because we're so into this lens and into this viewpoint that we don't consider other viewpoints, right? And that's human nature. That's animal nature, right? And we are animals. And so how do we overcome this idea? Well, we need to respect other cultural values by first acknowledging that they exist. And so kind of what I like to do, and this is a little bit of a hot take, but we've all heard the golden rule probably: do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or treat others the way you want to be treated. That's a great place to teach kids the importance of empathy. It's a great starting point. But I kind of like to practice what I call, that's just something I call the platinum rule, because platinum's a little bit more expensive than gold. So the platinum rule. And the platinum rule in my brain is to do unto others to the best of your ability in a way that works for them. Right? Because if you come from a different generation than I do, and you come from a different background than I do, and you probably do, because we all come from different backgrounds, even within our own cultures, because no culture is a monolith. No two people who check the same demographic boxes are going to be exactly the same person with the same experience, right? Because our cultures are not just our larger cultures that we would check on a box. We've also got familial cultures, like inside of our families and inside of our neighborhoods and inside of our regions, our geographical placement, all kinds of factors, right? So whether we're on a sports team, like who we are is, and who we see ourselves as and how we see the world, it's so many things at play, right? And so the first thing that I need to do is try to meet people where they are, in the sense of, I'm going to try to treat everybody in the way that works for them to the best of my ability. And how do I do that? That's a nice idea, but how do I do that? Well, I try to understand every single person I come in contact with. I try to, right? This is the platinum rule. Try to understand every single person that you come in contact with, while simultaneously having the humility to realize that you'll never actually achieve that understanding, because you're never going to know. How many times have we heard when we lost somebody close to us and somebody says, I know exactly how you feel because I lost somebody close to me, even if it was the same role, like somebody loses a mother and you lost your mother, God forbid, or something like that, it still is going to hit a little bit different. That's not a comforting thing typically when someone says that. I know exactly how you feel. It feels a little bit like it kind of makes our guard go up, right? And the reason that it does is because we are all different. Even if we all check the same, check the same boxes on some kind of a survey, right? We still are not going to be exactly the same in every conceivable way as human beings. And so try to understand everybody you come in contact with, while having the humility to realize that you'll never actually achieve that understanding. But in my view, it's the pursuit of that understanding that will keep you decent, right? Knowing you'll never actually get there, you're sort of chasing that. But if we can understand that it's not really achievable, doing the best we can to achieve it in that pursuit will keep us decent, will keep us empathetic, and will keep us responsive to this kind of feedback. So if someone were to say to you, hey, that thing that you said, you missed this point, or maybe you didn't anticipate this challenge, or maybe you didn't consider this opposition, because we all have blind spots, all of us do. And the more truly diverse we are in all kinds of ways, the more those blind spots are going to not align, right? We all have them. But if I'm hanging out with people and only listening to or taking seriously people who are as much like me as I can conceive of them being, our blind spots might align. And so my blind spot is going to at least stay as big as it is, and not, if it doesn't get bigger, right? But if I'm hanging out with people who are of different backgrounds, or I'm listening to people or exposed to people who are of different backgrounds, different viewpoints, different, cultures, different ethnicities, different, all of the things, right? Diverse ideas, all of this, right? Then I can accept, by sheer virtue of their being a human being and I'm the human being, they've got blind spots, I've got blind spots, but our blind spots might be very different. And so by being exposed to each other and listening to each other and taking each other seriously as human beings, our blind spots might get smaller, right? They at least hopefully won't get bigger. Okay. And we can benefit because you can see something I can't see and I can see something you can't see. And that comes with exposing yourself to different kinds of perspectives. I'll leave that there. And imagine yourself in the place of the listeners, because that's where empathy lives also. Be alert to feedback, right? So if somebody says something to you, or if you're getting a vibe off of somebody, we all think when we're in traffic and somebody does something and there's like a horn honk situation, our instinct is almost always to think that that other person is wrong. Or sometimes you get people who, no matter what, they think they're wrong. Usually there's just a learning opportunity if we don't assume automatically that the other person is wrong and that other person can't teach us anything, or that we're so horrible we can't learn anything. The place of productivity is living in that middle, right? We all have room to learn, we all have room to grow, we all have valuable feedback to give, and so let's be alert to that, receptive to that, and give it respectfully. And listeners also have to avoid ethnocentrism. If I am only going to listen to people who are from where I'm from and are of my age and have a similar background to me, I'm not going to learn anything, right? And we come to college to have our belief systems challenged and in a lot of ways fortified. You may come out of here believing what you would have put down on paper that you believed when you got here, but now you believe it even more intensely because it's been challenged just by sheer virtue of being exposed to other belief systems, right? This intellectual kind of smorgasbord of ideas and cultures that we have on a college campus is going to make you trust your own belief system more, but then also respect other belief systems more. Okay, so don't just dismiss somebody because you think you know what they're about, especially if y'all have a lot of differences, because you might have a blind spot. Maybe you don't know what they're about. That's chapter 1, y'all. So I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to upload this video. Sorry about the lighting. I had a ring light. I don't know where it's gone off to. I'm kind of not mad about it because it hurts my eyes. But I will try to find it just because it's really dreary with it being wintertime. So sorry about the lighting. And this is chapter 1. I'm about to upload it. Your syllabus is already uploaded. So I will email you and remind you of all the videos and their purposes every day, and email me with any questions. Tonight you have those 2 assignments due. You've got the email policy quiz. This is the first day of the curriculum. We've got the email policy quiz, and we've got the course check-in acknowledgement for the registrar. Those assignments are due by 11:55 p.m. tonight. If you have any questions, shoot those to me after you've consulted all provided resources. All right, see you next time. Bye.